Hey everybody, Vail here. Hello. How you doing? I hope you're doing well. We're going to be doing some Endgame, my favorite thing to study. Well, the most useful thing to study. It seriously is. I think that this particular playlist of looking at Endgame stuff and me forcing myself to do the videos, this has been the most helpful. I've actually gotten a couple of stones stronger recently. Um, and I think this is probably one of the reasons why. I think Endgame is really useful. Being able to evaluate positions and figure out sente moves has been really good for my overall game, actually. It's just surprising to me. Now, you're looking at this and you're thinking, if you've been following the other endgame problems, you're probably looking at this and thinking, this doesn't look like an endgame situation. Well, it's not a full board endgame problem like we've done in the past, but here we're going to switch gears a little bit and we're going to talk about Endgame Tesujis. Tesuji is, if you don't know, is a a brilliant move. That's what it technically means. Excuse me. An unusual move, a move that doesn't come naturally, that you don't automatically see when you look at the board, that does the right thing. It and they become really important in the end game. So there are special moves that you need to know in order to maximize your profit in the end game. Just playing sente moves is great. Knowing what's sente, what's double sente, what's reverse sente, all of those things, knowing that you need to play your gote moves last, very important. However, being able to spot special brilliant moves that will turn your move into sente, that's what these endgame Tesujis are all about. Finding a way um, to get extra sente moves. So I, as is usual, have not examined these. I have not looked at the answers to these. I'm going to be trying to figure these out as we go. Each corner has Tesuji in it to find. So some way, some special move that doesn't necessarily come naturally that we have to find to maximize our potential. And they are all black. They're all benefiting black. So let's start up here in the upper right, and we'll go clockwise around. And I'll pause the video now. See if you can find the moves for black in the upper right, bottom left, upper left. And I will do the same thing. And then after we come back, we'll see what the book says and see how well we did. Okay, everybody. Hopefully you've had a chance to pause your video and examine all four problems, because that's what I did. So I'm going to go through what I think are the correct answers. Although, I'm embarrassed because this first one, I just don't understand it. Let's go into right in that. I assume that it wants us to play here, but I don't see why. Um, there's no other Tesuji here, is there? I mean, not that this even really is a Tesuji, because black or white just blocks. There's nothing here for. There's nothing here. I don't think. Yeah, there's nothing here. I'm missing something because if it was me, I would just push. That makes the most sense to me, because it's better than playing here, because this lets white play at Q19, gaining an extra point. But we're talking about Tesujis. The point of this is Tesuji. So I'm assuming that it's something more than just pushing. So my guess is that it's something here that I'm missing. So we'll come back to that, but I'm counting that as a loss. Down here on the bottom right, I think the answer is here. Let's see, do I have that one somewhere? Yeah. I think the answer is here because if white tries to keep his eye, then there's this move, which is Atari. After white connects, then it gets ugly, turns into possibly a ko here. That's a ko. White does not want a ko at the end. So by descending here, white needs to do something else, like possibly this. Um, so this is my guess. We'll find out at the end. But my guess is that this move takes away a point of white's territory because white needs to create an extra eye inside right now. And it also stops white from making that move as well, which takes away a point from black's potential territory. So that's my thought on that one. Now over here, what do I got? Nope. Yes, I think this one is the obvious Tesuji because white has to respond to this, right? If white ignores it, then white loses these stones. So white has to play here, at which point there's what's called a squeeze play. Squeezing is where you've got a stone that's going to be sacrificed, but you can kind of play a succession of Ataris. Notice that that's Atari, so white has no other option but to take. And now here's another squeeze play. This is Atari. White has to fill, and now black has basically taken away white's entire corner territory. That's a huge endgame potential. So that's my thought there. Over here, white's position is pretty thin. White doesn't have a lot of strength, especially right here. So my thought is, where is it? It's missing. Well, anyway, my thought is that this is the best move. Instead of just doing a Hane, um, which turns into this kind of situation, right? Um, Black can ask for a bit more by capturing this stone. Now, if see how that's better. So I think the clamp is the best move here. Let's see what the deal is. Let's pause again, and I'll check the book, and we'll go back to our starting position here, and I'll fill in the correct answers. Okay, true believers, we're back, and I made some mistakes. Mistakes were made, but that's what we're here for. Apparently, many of the moves that I found were the ordinary endgame moves. They're the moves that um, that you know Q players find, like me. So this is good. We're learning. Remember up here we said that I had no idea. This is more interesting than it actually looks. So the move that they want you to play, this is the ordinary move, right? This is the typical move. It ends like this. White gets 4 points in the corner. This is the Tesuji. This took me a second, man. It took me a second to figure out what was going on because um, black can just Atari either here or here, right? However, the end result after this, um, black needs to, or white needs to. If white does this, then white dies actually because there's not enough. There's not 2 eyes. So white can't just connect at R19. White needs to capture. And now you'll notice that white doesn't have 4 points. White has 3 points. Not a huge difference, but we're talking about in the end game, sometimes we're talking about just a difference of a couple of points can swing the game. So why not play this way? The other way to Atari Black is here, and once Black can make this Atari, which is sente, and then same result. So same result, but basically what it turns into is a 1 point difference from this. This is 4 points for white with the normal end game, and either of these turns into, well, that's dead. So either of these turns into 3 points for white. So that's cool. Did not see it. Now we go down to this one, and this is the correct move. So the move that I had played originally was at T6. That's not a Tesuji, by the way. I should have known better. This move is the vital point of white's shape, and white needs to make sure that black dies, otherwise white doesn't have 2 eyes in the corner. So white needs to play S2, and then we descend, and now you'll see that white is in trouble as far as finding eyes. So white needs to play here to make sure that white gets 2 eyes. And here's another Tesuji, boom, a throw in. What this does is it ensures that that S4 is going to be a false eye. So after white captures, black can make sure that that's a false eye, and now white needs to capture. If white doesn't do this, if white plays elsewhere, then after the Hane, white dies completely because white only has 1 eye. Isn't that cool? That's pretty neat. So because of the threat here of, white can't Tanuki here. So because of that threat, white needs to capture. And after that, black can capture here. And white is alive, but has very few points. Big end game difference. The next one is here, although this I think this turns into the same shape that I showed you guys, where it's exactly the same end game shape. It's just a different order. So I think either way works. So you can either play here or you can play here, and I think that's the same. It's the same thing. This actually, this might be better because with this shape, white might just sacrifice these stones potentially. So actually, I think the book is right in that this is the better shape. It's more aggressive. It's more forward thinking. It ends in the same result, but it actually makes sure that it ends in this result. And then finally, I suggested that you play this move, but that's the end. That's the typical end game move. So I'm learning that what I think are Tesujis are actually just the typical end game moves. So here, what it wants you to do is play at B14. This is pretty cool too because after B14, white can't allow black to play here at C15, so white has to play there. And now black can push one more, and this is where it gets interesting because white can't play here because that's the white dies. Isn't that neat? So white has to come back and fix this shape, and now black gets a little bit more, actually quite a bit more. Plus, there's more like a monkey jump. You could do stuff here, so there's still white needs to come back and fix that. So isn't that's kind of neat. I like that. This is what's interesting about Endgame is that little moves like this can turn into big swings if you can find them. So before we'd been talking about categories of moves, basic endgame moves. Find your double sente moves first. Play those. make sure that you know the general way to count endgame moves. If you can't count it, consider every endgame move to be about 6 points. Uh, that's just my little mental shorthand. But now we're transitioning into finding special moves. So the foundational part of Endgame is make sure you know your categories. Go back and watch those old videos, the other videos about Endgame, and see how there's different categories of Endgame moves. And you got to play your double sente moves first, then you got to play your sente moves, then you play your gote moves. But we haven't talked yet until now our about types of moves, like specific moves to look for. And that's what we're going to be getting into now. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Um, I certainly learned a bit from it. So keep your eyes out for more Joseki with Dummies videos. We are posting videos about Joseki, of course, but then we're also posting videos about game reviews, life and death, and of course, Endgame. So thanks for watching, and until next time, Excelsior.